say hello and good afternoon. This is Rob Hoogers from New South Wales DPI. Just a quick information session about anyone preparing an IFWUEA for the round 6 Sustain the Basin funding. Okay, get on with it. There are quite a few handouts on our webpage for the IFWUEAs. There's a handout information pack for everything to do with round 6. There is an example IFWUEA, and there's an IFWUEA form, which is the template to your first point of contact application for the whole process. IFWUEAs have been now for a few rounds all about the losses, not the changes to your farm. This change came about after a review of round 1 and 2. So from round 4s onward, we just look at and focus on the water loss associated with your current irrigation system. And the funding application that will come after the IFWUEA will then address that water loss, and they have to line up. So all IFWUEAs have to be verified prior to submitting an infrastructure application for funding. In fact, you won't get an infrastructure application until after we've verified your IFWUEAs. It is the first step in the process. If you have an IFWUEA from round 4 or 5 that has been verified, it does not need resubmitting. If you have an IFWUEA from round 3 that's verified, that's unacceptable. We need you to do page 1 to 5 to renew your details of the farm. So you will need to resubmit the IFWUEA, but only do pages 1 to 5. If you've done a round 1 or 2 IFWUEA, we'll need you to resubmit that completely and fill in the assessment criteria round 4 to round 6 according to the IFWUEA example, if you can please. What defines the IFWUEA area? It is the irrigation management unit. The IFWUEA is located in the water loss associated with that irrigation area. Bit more defined, an irrigation management area is a farming unit which may be irrigated from one or multiple water sources, including the full hydraulic extent of that. It doesn't mean it has to be completely connected. So there's a bit of flexibility there, but knowing that you do have to, this IFWUEA will be what your application is. So you can subdivide it, but then you need to do 3 applications. It's a lot easier to keep it all together as one irrigation management unit than subdividing it. Losses need to be calculated using one of the 3, but not all 3 methods. So you have direct measurements of inefficiencies within your system, whether that be channel losses, storage losses, or field losses. They're obviously the best measurements, but we don't always have those. Whole farm water balance is good for identifying the loss across the whole farm. Probably the easiest way is to do a water use efficiency comparison with industry. So if you do your water use efficiency of your crops that are growing and there's a shortfall, that identifies the holistic losses, you can then nut down to direct measurements or part of your whole farm balance to find out where those losses are occurring. You need to subdivide your losses according to the areas that they are so that the works can be attributed to those. So if you have 100% field losses and you want to fix your storage, your funding application will not be considered fruitfully because the losses need to be associated with where the works are going to happen. So subdivide them in storage, distribution, field and production losses so that that will line up with your funding application in the next step. They need to be realistic. They will be assessed on being realistic. So the best way to be realistic is to look at the benchmarks to the industry for those particular crops that you're growing. MAP has to describe the area of loss, and that's an important factor as well. Only the applicant will be accepted which address the losses identified in the IFWUEA area, and that mapped area will be the basis for your funding application. Once your form is completed, the applicant sends all sections to DPI. Don't forget all of your consultant declaration and your declarations on the one form. So, just in summary, the process for funding, firstly, is to express your interest, self-assessment on eligibility, eligible irrigators submit an IFWUEA form by registered post, date stamped the 1st of October. That's your first step. Verified within 10 business days by myself in DPI. If clarifications are required, it's not a knockback process. It's a matter of having another 10 business days to negotiate errors, fix them up, and get all the technical issues out of the way before the money round, before the funding application is put in. This whole process of the IFWUEA is for ironing out all those technical issues so that those technical issues don't knock you out of funding in the next round. Step 5, after the verification of your IFWUEA, there will be reimbursement of up to 80% of the cost of submitting, getting a consultant to look at your water losses, up to $2,000, and then eligible irrigators with verified IFWUEAs will be sent their infrastructure application form. Okay, so the documents you need will all be on the website, which is the address on the bottom of that slide. The IFWUEA form needs to be back by the 1st of October. There's an information and an example IFWUEA. Just stressing that you don't need to do your IFWUEA to the full extent of the example IFWUEA. The example IFWUEA looks at all the different ways of producing an IFWUEA. Your water loss assessment may be much more simple than that. Any questions, Ed, that I didn't cover very well?
No, that looks pretty good actually. It's fairly clear.